when they were really young, we would take our walks and we would take the dog with us, and that was Olive, our favorite Olive. What, what was her breed? Do
We're
we have?
not sure. She we
It's kind of a
He
mix.
was a terrier mix.
And so we used to walk through our neighborhood, our older neighborhood, and a good walk. And I had the youngest one was in my arms. He was, I don't know, probably
Thought you
two.
were all walking, holding hands.
I, oh, wow, that's true. I was. We were
You guys were
walking, holding
walking. So
hands,
she was about 2. So the
and
older
then
daughter
it was about,
was 2 and 7 is 9. So it was just the three of you. I was at
yeah.
work.
And we walked behind our house, and we didn't realize it, but there was a dog that was a house down from behind our house. And when we came around the corner of this kind of a wall between one of the homes, this dog came at us with a growl, the big growl, the heavy teeth showing. And I immediately grabbed the youngest one, pulled him up under my arms, grabbed the other one, and tried to put him behind me. And all the while, our dog Olive was circling us and fighting off this dog as we were,
Staying between you and this other dog.
yeah, and we were backing away, trying to get back to the house. And I'm going, "Come on, Olive, let's go," and Olive just kept fighting him back. And I mean, he took the dog took a bite of Olive's tail, but Olive kept fighting. He would not let him even near us. And we kept backing up, and I kept calling Olive, keep coming, and finally Olive was able to break free with him, and we were able to all rush into the house, close the door. But it was a really scary time, and to watch Olive circle us like she did and how she protected us, it was really rewarding to watch it happen, and how it really kind of saved us from the possibility of one of us getting a bite, hopefully me, if anybody. But
And
you know
Olive's tail bite was not enough to draw blood or anything and not didn't need any
and of course,
attention.
Olive never was one to yelp about things or get excited. Even even if he was hurt, he didn't seem to get that bothered by it. His whole goal was protecting this family, and
She
it
was a
was
great dog.
it was fun to watch. So, well, hello, this is Don.
And this is Gina with Focused Healthy Family. And
And
as we are recording, our dog needs to go outside.
go take care of the dog. This is podcast number 235, and today we're talking about pets and about therapy and caregiving because they work in both of those areas. We've had it for therapy and we've had it for caregiving. And before we go too far, let's look at our thoughts for the day here. Let me get my thing up here, and I got a quote for you. This comes from Trending Mammy. I don't know where that came
Hmm.
from, but I thought this first thing was a really interesting thing. So, first week of your new pet's adjustment plan is all about decompression. Your pet is processing new smells, new sounds, new people, and maybe even wearing a collar, using a bathroom outdoors, and sleeping on a soft bed for the first time. Keep visitors minimal, limit new environments, and allow plenty of quiet rest time.
Hmm. I think about that. Don, I've got some pet
Okay.
jokes.
Okay.
All right. Um,
Hit
why couldn't
me.
the dog get the apple?
I don't know.
Because he was barking up the wrong tree.
Okay.
Um, what do cats say after making a joke?
Mm, I don't know.
Just kitten. And why do poor dogs chase their tails?
Why do poor dogs chase their tails? I don't know.
They're just trying to make ends meet. I like that one. So, talking all things pets today.
Before we let me just do a quick comment because we have on our last podcast,
Oh, yes.
we got a lot of talk about our talk on chemo. We presented this
Oh,
um
we didn't do a presentation on chemo.
not a no, I'm sorry, it wasn't a presentation on it, but we're in the middle
We
of the
mentioned
we mentioned it. You thank you. And they we posted this idea of, if you're 30 years old, do you do chemo? And if you're in your upper like
90.
80, 90, whatever, would you do it then too? And we kind of posed that. And we got a lot of great comments on it. So, neither of us have been through chemo. So what we were looking to do is find somebody that's been through it and possibly bring them up onto the podcast and talk a little bit about what goes on with it, how they felt with it, all of that kind of thing. So I wanted to put that out there now, put that idea out there. If you've been through chemo, or you know somebody that's been through chemo that would be interested in coming on to our podcast and talking about it, that we would love to have you.
And we'd
So
love to hear different perspectives,
yeah,
someone who was happy with the treatment, someone who, chose otherwise, or as well as any professionals who deal, in chemo and cancer care and that kind of thing. So thank you for listening, and
and
please continue to like and subscribe and reach out to us so we
yeah,
can discuss that further.
we can do it in the contact form, or you can send me don@focusedhealthyfamily.com.
And we'll put that in the notes.
Yep,
So back to pets. I
pets.
thought about this because we've had to care for, right now we have two cats and a dog. Our cats are seven-ish. Our dog is somewhere between 12 and 14. He's a beagle. We lost Olive, lived to be 16 years. That was an amazing dog. And we could
Yeah.
have told so many Olive stories. She was certainly our angel. Um, so our beagle has had back issues. Dogs with long backs like beagles can have issues with their back. And he has been to doggy chiropractor and has had issues with the um, joints of his back. And he was going through a similar issue last summer. And then he developed what we found out was pancreatitis and went through treatment for that. He's doing better now. It costs a lot of money to do all that for your pets. And then our cat was going outside the litter box, and she's never done this. She's an inside cat. We took her to the vet. I was kind of hoping it was a UTI. We could treat it. Well, no UTI, but she has crystals building up in her bladder and causing irritation. Luckily, our middle child works at a veterinary clinic. She's a veterinary tech, essentially, and she can get some discounts working in the vet field. And we have a place to take our cats and someone who's well experienced because right now Sunshine's on gabapentin to help with pain and irritation. Giving a cat medicine is not an easy task.
No, no,
She
that's a
gave her by pill a few times. I'm holding the cat. She's holding the cat, stuffing a pill down her throat. Something I don't even know if I would try, but she does this at work. Then she was spitting the pills out. She even tried a pill shooter. She didn't like that. So she got liquid gabapentin. And there's the dog, Don.
you want me to go this time? I'll go this time. Hold on.
Um,
Keep going. It should.
and it's an ordeal. And cats are smart. And now when I've got her in my lap and Abby comes over, she's ready to run. So I either are on the floor or like our ottoman, and I'm holding her down. And Abby has to put the syringe in her mouth to squirt it so she gets the medicine, which ironically, you get it from a regular pharmacy, so it's cherry flavored. But the cat does not like it, does not like being restrained. And the other day, I was like, Abby, you get the medicine. She's calm. She's on my lap because we've spent many times searching for her. She gets under the bed. The one day she went under the bed. I swear she was still under there. We have like underbed drawers and we're pulling all of it out and we're digging around and searching. And I'm like, what on earth? And I walk outside and walk outside the bedroom. She had gotten out. Um, there's too many places for her to hide. So now it's like when she's calm and in my lap. But Abby just, I don't even know if she said something or just her presence. And Sunshine's like, I got the scars to to prove it. They're not too bad. You should see our daughter who works in the veterinary field and all her bruises and things.
I got one some, or I had one. It might be gone from
But
that
you
same
know,
thing at the
if you
very
have
beginning.
cats, if you have dogs and other pets, right? Our son had a bearded dragon for a while. It was his first pet living on his own, and who he rehomed to
So
a
maybe we
lovely
talk a little bit
family.
about at first about therapy. I think we could talk about Olive and how she.
So you can get a dog certified as a therapy dog. My sister runs Teamworks out of Raleigh, North Carolina. She does dog training, she does dog sports and things, and we learned a lot from her over the years, as did our daughter, who's involved in the veterinary world now, and how therapeutic animals can be. So, come here, sunshine. Speak of the devil. Um, Here she is. She looks sweet and cute, but she's not happy when she has to get medicine. They can be therapeutic. They can be companionship. Um, They can also be a hazard. Our beagle is prone to standing directly behind me now in the kitchen, and he's not a super big dog, so I get worried that I'm going to trip on him. I've treated a lot of people over the years who have fallen because of pets
Mhm.
and broken bones and things, and yet we love our pets. They're great companions. They love us unconditionally, and it can be very helpful, whether it's a pet we own or whether it's a therapy dog experience. Many places I've worked in the senior population and even in hospitals now, you can bring, it's often a therapy dog that comes in to visit people, only people who want them to visit them, and it can be so therapeutic.
Well, and and we can show that by, like I say, with Olive and what we went through with one of our daughters who was dealing with OCD, and we found out kind of after the fact of how much Olive played into her therapy. I mean,
Well, I
uh,
mean, she was our neighbor's dog. We may have told some of these stories before. Um, she was our neighbor's dog. We met her as a puppy, and they
they were getting ready to move down to
no, no,
Florida.
I'm talking about way before then.
Yeah,
They had a
yeah,
baby, and she was still pretty young, and so Abby would walk Olive for them. She was, how old was Abby? Six something,
yeah. It was
and
pretty.
because you would go with her, and I know Olive took her skiing, running down like a little trench in the yard, with a little where water drains. Um, Olive loved to dig. Our neighbors across the street who owned her before us had three total dogs, and her and one of their other dogs would get out under their fence and go roaming the neighborhood. One time she showed up at our door, and again, she'd become friends with our daughter. And then when Abby started walking her, our neighbors would tell us, Abby had a kind of a high squeaky voice when she was little, and she'd come over and knock on the door, and they said Olive would get so excited hearing Abby's voice. And they became really good friends to the point where we would call our neighbor if Abby was flaring up with her OCD and her anxiety, um, which was kind of paralyzing fear that she was experiencing. And Olive could help bring her out of it. And our neighbors gifted us Olive when they went to move, and it was just the most beautiful thing in the world. She became Abby's best friend. Um, and even though she lived to be 16, our daughter was in her 20s and living on her own at the time. Um, it was heartbreaking to say goodbye.
Yeah,
I've had people tell me, "Oh, I'm never going to get a dog again because it was just too much when they passed." And yet, would we change that experience for the world? Um,
yeah. Well, and like I said, there was one incident where Abby was in her doing the working with OCD, but the dog was sitting across the couch from her, and she at that point she couldn't really touch the dog, so it became a goal for her in her mind that she was going to work on touching the dog.
she had extreme contamination
Yes,
fears where she felt like
yeah.
if she touched everything, it was dirty. But yeah, and just that motivation with the pet was far stronger than anything else we could come
Well,
up
and she
with.
said she used to throw chips across the olives. You know,
They
I
feed her
thought,
treats.
yeah, she was such a good dog. It was
And
fun.
she dislocated her hip when she was, what, 7 maybe. and went through surgery to repair her hip. And at the time, my parents still lived down in Lake Murray, and we took her there because swimming is great exercise for recovery. And Olive wasn't a huge fan of swimming, but she would swim. So Abby, how old was Abby? I don't know, 10 years old. She walked her into the lake from the shallow end, and then Olive would swim back to the shore. And she did that for exercise, which, there are therapy centers where you can take your pets um, for therapy, basically, physical therapy for dogs, to help them with their healing. There are chiropractors, acupuncture. Our beagle had cold laser therapy. There was a traveling vet who came to the house. That's something you can mobile vets, because she did it at the house. She put little goggles on him because they can't look at the laser light and did acupuncture. And
Well, they also have psychiatrists. If I remember right, there was a one of somebody told me about it.
that's
That's
very interesting. I mean, our dogs can have fears like people. Some of our, that we can medicate them for thunderstorms. And there's also other measures. A friend of mine used a collar that um, some kind of almost essential oil or so pheromones or something that releases, and she's found that to be calming for her dog. I think Abby tried it with our dog and it wasn't real effective, but there's a lot of different things out there and measures. And we love our pets as our own, and they're part of the family.
well, the heavy blankets too was the other one that
Weighted blankets, yeah, can be helpful and calming. So the other thing though is you need to think about when you're getting a dog. People go get a pet because they like the animal. They've seen it, 101 Dalmatians. People go and get Dalmatians, and yet they're not the best family dogs. They're not the best dogs for little kids. People don't think about that. Different breeds tend to have different temperaments. How they're raised can make a difference. It's great to rescue dogs and get dogs from shelters, and yet you don't know what their previous experience has been like.
yeah.
Unfortunately, way too many people abuse animals, and that can affect then how they react and interact with people. So it's important to understand, the type of dog you're getting, the temperament of your dog. And there are specialists out there, people like my sister, again, out of Teamworks in Raleigh, North Carolina, as well as other places that are behavior specialists with dogs and can look at the temperament of dog and can even advise you in getting a dog, the breed of dog. Um,
What fits best for your family,
Yeah,
for your
yeah.
kids, all of that.
Sometimes older people get a really high energy dog and it's a lot for them to care for.
Yeah.
Um, our daughter talks about this different people that come into the veterinary clinic and the type of dog they have. And sometimes it's not the best fit and it can be challenging. People have to rehome animals because
Mhm.
they've always had golden retrievers and they want a golden retriever, but now they're 70 or whatever, and that they get this puppy and it's too much for them. So we need to think about things because it affects the animal as well, bringing him into our home. Um,
Well, and let's talk a little bit about the caregiving side because that was a lot of we did with your dad was
oh,
we'd bring the dog in, as
we talked about
not
like
so much caregiving,
pet therapy,
but yeah,
how therapeutic it can be. My dad loved dogs, and my sister, when she'd come visit, would have one of her dogs. She'd always bring the one that was the most pet therapy appropriate and did well, especially as he was in a facility and did well around walkers. That's a whole training you can go through for your dog to be kind of desensitized to these different things. When our kids were little, we'd visit nursing homes. My sister would bring a dog or two, and we'd go around and talk with people. And between the dogs and the kids and just interacting with the people, a lot of people living in either nursing homes or any kind of senior living may not have family members that are close, may not have children around them or dogs around them. And, you see how people can really light up, um, getting to pet a dog and, something that they've loved all their life and might even start talking when they weren't before. So the benefit can be exponential.
well, and, the other thing, just thinking about when talking about caregiving, you have dogs that can be trained. I know, I think
Service
for
dogs.
diabetes to be able to help somebody that's going different things that they can actually be trained to be able to
Yeah.
help.
You think about it with people with different, diabetes. I know I've met people with the children who have type 1 diabetes. The dog can detect when their blood sugar's off. Um, Service dogs, people with PTSD, other people with developmental disabilities and things, people with anxiety, a lot of things. And that's a whole nother endeavor. If you
Yeah.
ever see a dog that says service dog, it's got a service dog vest or a collar, do not interact with that dog. That dog is being trained or has been trained to be a service animal. And when they're on duty, they're responding to their owner and providing that service. And so you're not supposed to go up and pet them and interact with them. It affects their training. I've talked with somebody who's somebody with a service dog, and they said as soon as they took off the service dog coat, the dog knew that it was just wild and playful. When it had its jacket on, it knew how it had to behave and interact because you could, take them out. I remember being at like a Panera, and this woman had a service dog. It was like a golden retriever or something, and it was under the table and it was just sitting calmly. And that dog is not sniffing around and trying to get the food on the floor. I was just amazed. Because our dogs are always right under our feet. They tend to find the messiest person in the house to clean up after them. Speaking of food, you do have to be cautious. Um,
A lot of stuff that
Chocolate, grapes, things that dogs can't eat, and mixing children or even older people with dogs, paying attention um, to what they might be getting into, because it can be very dangerous. Certain nuts, I think macadamia nuts, paying attention to that, looking up, plants, what things can be toxic to animals.
that's one thing Google is good for.
But
You
make
can,
sure the source you're getting it from is
yeah,
accurate.
that's true. That's true.
It's good to check. We've used, there are veterinary services where you call in, you have to pay a fee, but you can talk specifically to people about your pet and what's ingested, and they'll ask questions about the quantity. And, like with chocolate, our dog's gotten into chocolate. And a lot of these things can cause upset stomach or more severe. Um, our dogs we never even saw the small side effects. Um,
But and I think about one of probably maybe the oldest, I don't know, but the oldest kind of service dog was for blind people. I
mhm.
mean, I can remember as a young child having blind people with service dogs to help them guide them through so they're well trained in what they have to do too. I don't know if that's the oldest, but that's what remembers in my
Yeah, you have
mind.
memories of that. I mean, there's police dogs. I remember when our
Yeah,
kids
that's
were
true.
little, we went to a police station and they did a demonstration of the police dog and how they're trained. Um,
They have those big suits on kind of thing. Was that
well, yeah, because they're trained to grab someone. They're not trained to, you know, they're trained to grab and hold, hold
hold?
on to someone's arm. So they train them with special gear on to not get injured. Um, but thinking about your loved ones, I had a lady living in my independent living who had a cat. And the family was concerned. She had some dementia that was getting worse and concerned about her continuing to live in this apartment and looking at assisted living facilities. And she really didn't want to give up her cat. Well, they found a place she could go live and take her cat with her. It's been wonderful that places allow this now. Assisted livings, independent livings, you can have a dog, a cat. There are often breed restrictions and things. So checking those things out, because if that's important to your loved one, can they continue to live and care for their cat, their dog in their new environment?
No snakes, I would imagine.
As our youngest is looking at colleges, and I'm not going to remember the name of it, but there is a college somewhere, I think in the Southeast, that allows all sorts of animals as pets, as companions, as therapy
Wow.
pets. And we kind of, as we're reading about this and the certain animals that are allowed and not allowed, it's like, yeah, you hope you don't have a pet rat and you get a roommate with a snake, could be dangerous. So looking at the animals in our life, um, I know you grew up, Don, you had a dog, but the dog lived outside most of the time and you didn't take it to the vet regularly. And there are people who grew up in rural areas on farms and don't take their animals for regular veterinary care.
Yeah.
It can be expensive. And one thing is to look out for low cost clinics, discount clinics. Um, I know in the greater Charlotte area, and I'm sure everywhere in the country, um, You can trap outside cats and bring them for low cost spay neuter, sometimes free, sometimes like $25, really inexpensive. Um, and then you release them back. They call them community cats now because I guess they help
They
control.
clip one ear to know that they're
Yeah, in North Carolina, because if you trap them, they'll get them spayed, neutered, and the rabies vaccine, and then they clip their ear so that you know that they've had those services. Um, um, but Stand for Animals
yeah.
is
We'll
a
put
low
that.
cost clinic in Charlotte and Lake Norman area of North Carolina, and I believe Pineville. But look in your area. Are there low cost clinics? Are there places for basic services? Your dog can be up to date on rabies and other things so that it's affordable. It's also a great gift for anyone you know who maybe has your
Mm.
elderly neighbor or an aunt or someone who's caring for a dog, but they're on a limited income. You can sign up for different pet services where you get routine care. I know years ago, our sister gifted us to, a place where you go and it pays for a year's worth of care for new kittens or whatever it is, to help people cover those costs. So thinking about that is someone in the hospital, how can you help them? Can you help care for a pet, an animal?
Mm.
We did this for our neighbor for a long time who was in the hospital. And then she passed away, and we helped foster her from her home, and
Yeah.
looking to find, a new owner for them. Because, yeah, elderly people die and they leave pets behind, and who's going to take care of them?
Mm.
Because it's important to care for our animals and our pets. So, we'd love to have more conversations on this. We've kind of touched on a lot of different topics here, from pet therapy to,
The
you know,
chemo talk.
caring for animals, how they can help and support us. Um, One last story. One of my sister's dogs, I think it's Cherry, she'd bring him for visits. My dad loved to see him. My dad was in and out of rehab several times. There was Cherry coming up to my dad, getting pets. My dad was on hospice his last week or so. My sister came down with Cherry. I think at this point, my dad was pretty much not responsive, but Cherry curled up on the bed next to him. And it was just so touching, just thinking about all the visits she had made with him and one final visit uh, before he passed.
One last thing is just if you've been through chemo or know somebody that is and would like to be on the podcast, contact us and we'll be happy to talk with it.
And all these topics we talk about, like today with pets, we'd love to share your stories. We can even read your story online if you want to be on the podcast to discuss things or other information or things you'd like us to cover. Please reach out. I kind of touched on safety issues with animals in the home, but that's a whole nother area we could dig into. So thank you for joining us today on Focused Healthy Family. If today's conversation helped you, please take a moment to like, subscribe, and share the podcast with someone who might benefit from it. If stress, panic, and overwhelm are becoming part of your daily routine, consider exploring Don's EFT Discovery Series. EFT tapping is often described as weird, but yet it works. Many people may start skeptical, but after a few sessions, they're saying, wow, look what EFT has done for me. For wellness tips, caregiver resources, and more episodes, visit us at focusedhealthyfamily.com or focusedhealthyfamilypodcast.com. You can find us on social media like Facebook, Instagram, we are Focused Healthy Family 1, and again on YouTube at Focused Healthy Family, where you can watch and listen to our podcast, as well as anywhere you listen to podcasts, you can hear our podcast as well. New episodes of the Focused Healthy Family podcast are released every Thursday. And remember, Don is available to speak to organizations, caregiver groups, healthcare teams, and community groups about practical ways to reduce stress and build resilience in caregiving environments. For information about booking Don to speak at your location, please reach out to schedule him for a presentation or workshop. And remember, how you speak to your children and your loved ones today shapes their future and yours.